you can find the tools out there, or you can ask me, or you can ask you guys what tools you're using that are working for you. There's a bunch out there, but the point is that the things that you should automate out of the gate are the ability for someone to sign up for a very specific lead magnet of some kind. So you want to give them something for free that you can post on social, things that you can share with people that they can then share with other people. And that looks like a landing page with a form that somebody puts their email into.
Look at the Connect coaching. Unplugged.
Alrighty, guys, we have a special guest for Unplugged this week. I'm very excited to introduce Sam Ovett, a trailblazer in revolutionizing business by enhancing their human and technological capacities. With a keen focus on boosting growth and efficiency, Sam has spearheaded transformations for both emerging ventures and established enterprises. Notably, his expertise was pivotal in automating systems for a business called Mastering Diabetes, catapulting its annual revenue from around $500,000 to catching the eye of founder of All Foods, ultimately leading to its acquisition. Sam Ovett is at the forefront of driving profitability and predictability in businesses, shaping a future where success is not just attainable, but inevitable. With a proven track record of success, Sam has a hand in constructing automated infrastructures and sales funnels for numerous online courses and membership sites. Leveraging his expertise, these businesses have consistently surpassed six figures mark annual revenue, showcasing his unparalleled ability to drive results in the digital realm. Through meticulously designed systems and strategic implementation, Sam has empowered countless entrepreneurs to achieve significant financial milestones while maximizing efficiency and scalability. His dedication to excellence and innovation has solidified his reputation as a master architect of online business success, propelling individuals and organizations towards sustained growth and prosperity. Sam, thank you for tuning in all the way from the US. We appreciate having you here. You've become a good friend of the Connect team, and your business is called the Automation Tribe. Thanks for being here, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you for having me.
Sam, look, you look like a pretty innocent guy. You've got a charming smile, and you're softly spoken. You always produce results, but people should probably be scared of you, shouldn't they? What I'm thinking here is automation, right? You're talking about making things so humans don't have to. Is automation going to steal all of our jobs? Yes or no?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Unless you're maybe a plumber.
Oh, that's good.
I think that's actually one of the, yes.
Lucky for me, I don't know if you know this, Sam, but I actually am a plumber by trade. That was my first trade I got, and
Is that right?
my license just in case automation takes over the world.
Well, I'm working on growing a plumbing business to 10 million, and then we're going to sell it. But that's a different story. Using automation. So yes, I think is the answer that automation is going to take your jobs. It's going to take the majority of jobs, I think. And I think it's going to produce a whole new space of jobs as well, as it always has. As we were kind of chatting beforehand, Connor, you mentioned the guy with the spade was replaced with the guy with the, mechanical digger. That's automation, right? And so I think there are certain spaces that it's not going to take jobs from. Particularly, I think the coaching space is one, actually, funnily enough, where it's not going to take jobs. And I do think pretty much anything else that's just task oriented in any capacity, even if we sort of presume them as high level tasks, those jobs are going to be going away. Like doctors, aspects of surgery, all the things that are just repeated process that you just get really good at. Machines are quickly capable of getting better when it comes to decision making and critical thinking and emotions and messy situations that are unclear the pattern. That's where, like plumbing, And I'll use that as an example because I'm serious. Like, I don't think that is going to go away through automation. The same, where the situation that you encounter each time is a little bit different or very different, that's where automation isn't going to take jobs, in my opinion. But everywhere else, I think, yeah, largely it's going to take the jobs of humans and make new ones.
I was just in a 3-day training with an amazing coach, mentor, trainer in the US, Darren Hardy. He has implemented some really, really impressive automation into his business. So much so it makes the whole experience of doing his trainings and working with him just feel really smooth, really effortless, and make you feel a part of the community that is created, which I think's really, really important. And one of the things that he says is that he uses automation for the parts of the contact and for the parts of onboarding and for parts of the service that don't require a human being. So not to replace the connections with the client or the member and the human being, but to make more of them, to make those
That's right.
connections more meaningful, to make them more regular, and to make them so that when they do get on those calls or they do interact in person or they do connect to them via text or email, those connections are more focused on helping them with their outcome, helping them feel more welcome, helping them to get wins, helping them to flourish and thrive in that community, in that environment, and less about the mundane, administrational type interactions. Is that relatable to the work you do? And if yes, how so? Or if no, how so?
Yeah, I mean that example is like pretty seriously relatable to the majority of the stuff that I'm doing because it is that kind of experience where you're tuning in a digital capacity. And what we want to do with automation really is, and the way that I think about it is I think about it relative to a business, right? And so I'll talk about a couple different thoughts relative to automation, but from a business perspective and running a business and using automation to leverage what you're doing, to make it easier to run a business, basically. I look at, there's like 5 big buckets. Attract. So what are you doing to attract new business, right? And there's plenty of that can't be automated, but aspects of the process can be, right? Like even social media posting, you can schedule, right? That's an awareness tool. Advertising, you can use a lot of automation to set them up appropriately for attracting that new interest and new business. And then you've got to convert that new business. That's right. So somebody comes in, they go, "Hey, I'm interested. I heard about you." And then you've got to convert them. So that's a huge spot for using automation to consistently give people a great experience every time. And that experience can include reminding you, let's say you have a phone number in there, to reach out to this new person that's in your ecosystem and touch them with a text message or a chat or a phone call and welcome them in. Let's say you have a community, and make them feel connected to it using that human touch, but you're using automation to remind you there. Right. And so then we have attract, convert, and then we have fulfill. So if they buy something from you or get something for free or whatever the mechanism of engagement is, they need their promise that you made fulfilled. And that's another great way to use automation because you're using it to always fulfill the promise that they're signing up for. So attract, convert, fulfill. Most people stop there and treat it like you're run-of-the-mill cattle rancher. They bring them in and then just get the money and forget about people, right? Like slaughter the cows, then don't think about the rest. But it's attract, convert, fulfill, and then the good business
coaching space.
What's
We've seen, I've seen some companies like that even in the coaching space, but
yeah.
Yeah.
It happens in every industry. But the idea is you have attract, convert, fulfill, and then good businesses do 2 other things. They delight anywhere they can in the process, and then they ask for referrals, or they create such a good experience, but then they still have process to where they make it easy for you to refer people to them. So I think of automation in those buckets, and that's how you can kind of apply it across any industry. That's the like formula I've used. Attract, convert, fulfill, delight, refer. And if you think about that, that is kind of you can break that down. You can literally like take a Google Doc or a notepad if you still use a pen, and you can write down the things you do to attract people, the things you do to convert someone, the things you do to fulfill something you that would delight someone in that experience, and the things you do when you're asking or creating an experience where someone's referring something. And now you have your process, right? So I'm kind of talking big picture. Now you have your process. You've written it down. This is the things you do. And if you do them consistently, that's your process. If you don't do them consistently or you do them differently, then you want to sort of land on the process that's you think is most effective at first while you're figuring it out. If you already know it, then you're set. You've got your process. And then you take that and apply automation to it. And the lens through which we think about automation over here, the way I think about it is that you want to think about it in the way that you're going, okay, where would it be really effective for me to engage or be human, right? Where can I create a better connection? Because that's ultimately a lot of times what creates a delightful experience, a wonderful, referable experience is a connected experience. Sure, you deliver the promise. That's table stakes for good business, right? From there on, it's about actually doing what you can to delight people. And that typically comes down to human connection, writing a handwritten note, getting on the phone, being aware of I'm going to call it proclivities. That's a big word, but the things that are interesting or nuanced to their life that you can delight someone where, they have a kid, right? And so you do something special for their child that is helpful to them, in this kind of industry. And if you think in that way, everything else gets automated, right? That's what computers, digital robots should do. They should do all the stuff that's not the human stuff so that you never drop the ball in those different buckets. So I'll stop there for a second, but that's the like very big view of this automation stuff. It starts in those buckets, then it goes to process, then it goes to automation under the lens of what should I be doing that's human, and try to create the best human connection I can.
I really like that. I think it's still quite ambiguous. I find maybe a bit
It is.
than many people. It's like the word marketing. Before marketing was around, someone said, "Oh, I'm going to start marketing my business," and people would start marketing. But what is this ambiguous term, marketing? It's broken down into so many micro buckets, I guess, if we're going to use that.
Right.
With the automations, could you give automation feel is that ambiguous phrase now? And then there are so many micro automations within the automations. Could you give an example of an automation in a business that you've worked with where you've been able to, I guess, implement everything from the different buckets and given that business more one-on-one time with their customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's actually just use the example that you said in the bio, the far too long bio that I sent you, which is the mastering diabetes one. And so the the mastering diabetes one is a good example, and I can talk about it. And the deal with that one is like, if we think about a track, that was all around, there was a lot of advertising and a lot of organic posting going on. And so their automation was used from an advertising perspective in a big way, a little bit in the social posting for sure, but it was a little before all the really good tools that are out there nowadays. And what we were doing is we would set up, advertising, and then we would set up remarketing so that when someone actually went first just to the page, right? There's one of their social pages from an organic post that they saw that was pulled up in the algorithm, or they landed on it by searching for it in Google and then landing on Facebook or Instagram, where those are the big platforms at the time for them. Then they would get retargeted with an advertisement to opt in for something, right? And those were always being tested, different ones, and the metrics were being watched. But the core of it was that they were then being retargeted, and that was automated, right? So that's a tool of automation at the attract stage. And then once they put their email in, they were then removed from that audience. So they weren't spending money on trying to get that person to take that next step because they'd already taken it. Right. So that automation is all the way at the front there. And that's something, some people may know about with retargeting. And then as they move into like a CRM style system where that email has been captured and put as data somewhere, then what happens is automation again takes over and there's a sequence. In that case, it was 5 emails to start, I believe is what we sort of landed on towards the end, where it was introducing people to what they're all about over those 5 emails, automatically sending them relative to when they joined. Again, something people are now way more familiar with, that portion of automation. But a lot of people, like I feel that when I see these things, they are thought of as run of the mill or like commonplace, and they don't get the attention they need because those are foundational to the experience that you can give someone, right? That is their entry point of communication with you. And so the better you can make those, the better that can help in that stage of, you're really still a bit in the attracting stage, moving into converting. But at that point, someone is introduced with automation to an offer, right? Based on the amount of time they've been in there. So they've gone through the 5-day thing. They haven't bought anything yet. That's just available on the site. So now an offer is put in front of them with a time. There's like time pressure put on it with automation. It says, this particular offer with these benefits, et cetera, is only available for this period of time. And they've been excited about it already through automation. And now they're going through this experience of it counting down automatically. No one's touching this, right? It's already been built and it's unique to that person's experience and their time that they've been in the system and have joined. And so it's relative to their entire experience from the top of the attract stage. And so that's all automation. And then let's say they buy, right? There's also like in that situation, there was an automated webinar in the middle of that to again, give like a further connection. And then that was a cool thing. And I'm trying to like go in the weeds, but not go in the weeds here with it, which can be a little hard to do. But that webinar, the one human piece was that they could enter their information in a chat, right? Like they could ask a question during the webinar. And that was being monitored by someone always, because they had so many people going through it, that even though it was a quote unquote, like evergreen would be the word we use here, not to get jargony, but it's like the webinar was always available for someone to watch. They watched it. They could ask questions in there. And there was even like preloaded questions in there from past webinars that people had asked. So it seemed like there was activity. But then when they asked the question, a real human would actually respond so that there was an immediate response. So someone was monitoring that for that reason, just about 24 hours a day, not like exactly, but pretty close to, because they had so much volume in there that it made sense. And that allowed automation to be a great tool to then also facilitate like that piece made sense to be human, right? And then from there, the offer went into inviting them if they hadn't taken up the offer. It's kind of like there's many forks of how it happens. So they come through, and there was this was like ended up to be quite robust. So there was upsells and downsells that were all automated within the experience based on what actions they took. But ultimately, the core idea is that they're getting made an offer, they can buy it, and they're being upsold to a nutrition coaching program. And that was sold via chat and booking people into calls as well, something that your audience is probably pretty familiar with. And again, it made sense if they had made it all the way through and hadn't bought to then open up a chat to like ask if they had questions, to then book them into a call, to then have a human experience to make it easier to answer the questions for the person, make sure it was a good fit. Ultimately, it's, closing that business, but actually make sure that it was a fit for what they were looking for so they could get the right people in the program. And then that took us to the fulfill stage, right? So if they actually, when they purchased, then there's the aspect of fulfilling, inviting them to the groups automatically, reminding them if they haven't joined the forum that they had to go join it, and recognizing all the steps that if they hadn't logged into the membership site to watch the content, reminding them to log in so that they were moving people through the experience and they were actually getting the full value out of it by using automation to recognize where someone was in the experience, all the way down to knowing that the more people they got through the program successfully and helped reverse their diabetes, which my dad actually had diabetes, and he worked with them and reversed his, like, medically reversed it. So it's cool. Like, I can speak for it, like how cool their program was in that way and effective. But the, the point of that is that it's automated all the way through and keep moving people through, even around, like, they would have actual coaching calls with a nutritionist. So similar, right? There's coaching going on. And what would happen is all of that information from those calls, their diet, all that was logged so that it was easily brought up in their record, and emails, recommendations on recipes, all that kind of stuff could be sent out to encourage them to do well with the program. And essentially automation is used to make it easier to refer because people are finishing the program. And then there's actually like a sequence that basically just invites you to let friends know about it, or if you know someone in a similar situation in that case, um, you know, feel free to, like, offer them this discount so that they can get into it, or free. There's all kinds of offers around that, but I'll stop. That's the,
Yeah, this is quite in depth, and I think the little micro automations along the way. So in that example with the diet
yeah,
business, really the human content came in potentially whilst they're watching the webinar, absolutely after they finish watching that webinar. So
that's right.
be typing in a question, then you have a real human replying to that. So
Yeah,
if it seems like there are a lot of moving parts,
right.
it could be, and I don't want to speak on behalf of others, but it could be quite overwhelming to how do you get out of overwhelm with so many options? How do I just focus on one thing at a time? What's that process to?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, and it's an important one because there are a lot of shiny objects in the world of automation, right? Like, I can automate this, I can automate that, and now more than ever with the advent of ChatGPT being popular and available. And I think really what ChatGPT has done is made automation and AI, which are not necessarily the same, but they're similar feeling in a way, public and known to the public. This stuff's been around for a while at this point, but it's given it a very public face. The way that you get out of overwhelm with this is you do look at that framework of attract, convert, fulfill, delight, refer, and you can name those whatever you want. But the point is you look at the flow of new business becoming aware of you, to converting into sales, and then fulfilling what you're doing. And that's like the very first, most important step. So you literally go, are the eyeballs that are looking at my stuff, are they doing the next step that I want them to do? If they're not, just stop, focus on that step, and use automation to make it easier to test and utilize and make those steps available to see if they're working. But you just literally work down it like a pinball machine. You put the pinball in and it goes like down the machine. And the top is awareness. And then if they're getting stopped, none of the other automation you built matters. They're never going to touch it. So the thing to do is work down the experience that someone's having with your business. Make sure that each spot is working. And if a spot's not working, as long as you are, like, actually fulfilling, just ignore that for now. Leave it at the minimum viable, experience. You're delivering what you're fulfilling. Do your best if you're in person with people, create that human connection. But from an automation standpoint, kind of forget about it. and work on that step at the top of the funnel. I'll use the word funnel because I think it's relevant. And work on it till it's working well. Then move on to the next thing that you want to automate. And the way to think about automation too, a lot of people go, I always want to automate everything. And you don't. You actually don't want to automate everything right away, because what happens is when you automate one thing upstream of the thing that's below it, you're going to learn what your real problems are with the next level of delivery. And you should address them when they're actually real problems for you. That's when you should automate them. Do them manually or semi-manually or with a little bit of helpful automation, but don't just embed it to where you can't change it or it's so much work to change it until you're for sure that that's the way it happened every time.
Yeah. We had this experience, the organization that we were working with prior to coming under our new umbrella of Connect Coaching. I felt, being new to the game and probably not having expert advice at the beginning and kind of thinking that we could do it all ourselves, meant that I feel in some ways, and kind of might agree or disagree, but we over automate it. And
it happens all the time.
People were coming to multiple events. Those events were very different from one another. They were close together though. So people were getting multiple welcome emails. They were getting multiple pre-study emails. They were getting multiple training resource material emails. And it just became,
It was like the Wild West.
I call it an automation avalanche.
Someone would put this whole automation together without knowing that this person has already put an automation together. Then this person put an automation together, and it was just a mashup, and it was just complete overwhelm.
It was a Franken monster. And it became a Franken funnel, I think they call it. It looked good, and people invested a lot of time, a lot of thinking into it, but didn't really, I guess, maybe understand the client journey well enough to know whether or not that was going to be the best possible way to automate. And I like that you said, even though you could get more business by telling people to automate everything, telling people, giving the advice that, automating everything is not the way forward, and to start with little things. And I think maybe I'd like to scratch that a little bit, because the example you gave before, even
it was massive.
It's not just massive, but it's quite a complex form of automation. And I think where a lot of the coaches, therapists, and trainers that we're working with may not be at that level just yet. They may be working towards that level, but not there just yet. So can we speak a little bit more to some of the essentials and some of the little and basic things that people can automate? And I'm thinking here of, even the email newsletter automations. I'm thinking here of, there's an event coming up and people get their Zoom link sent out to them, and how that, that can automate through your CRM, but also through Zapier, where it talks to multiple different pieces of software to work together. I'm also thinking about things like, landing pages, just basic stuff, like really, really basic stuff that can make a huge difference in people's life, and maybe, just an essential,
an essential automation list.
Yeah. Again, so here's the things that I think
trainers and practitioners, because that's generally who listens to our podcast.
Here's the things that I think most people can automate, probably themselves. I'm not going to get into tools right now, but you can find the tools out there, or you can ask me, or you can ask you guys what tools you're using that are working for you. There's a bunch out there, but the point is that the things that you should automate out of the gate are the ability for someone to sign up for a very specific lead magnet of some kind. So you want to give them something for free that you can post on social, things that you can share with people that they can then share with other people. And that it looks like a landing page with a form that somebody puts their email into. Right. And so the key piece is that someone can submit their email digitally, and that they get immediately an email with whatever you promised. right? And then that's like one of the key things. And that also positions your value in people's minds out of the gate, like what you do, and they start to understand it. The other thing you should have, if you have a website, is you should have additionally, I think still, a newsletter in addition that people can sign up for. And they may get both, right? Some people may just sign up for the newsletter. People actually still sign up for newsletters. And you should tell them what they're going to get in the newsletter. Like at 8 a.m. on Friday, I'm going to send you a newsletter about this every week.
Hey guys, Callum and Connor here from Connect Coaching. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Unplugged podcast. We're jumping in to let you know about something really exciting, the Forever Client Matrix.
Absolutely. What we love doing is lighting people up and helping them realize that their future is bright and, most importantly, making a difference in this world. So we are very excited to be able to share this with you.
If you want to turn every prospect into a Forever Client, then please click on the link below in the description and get instant access now to your preview of the Forever Client Matrix.
Enjoy.
Be really specific about the newsletter when it's done. And then what you want to do, so we've got the landing page that people opt in for a thing. I mean, it can even be like a Google form that you put out there. Like that would work, like at the most basic level. And it may be just as effective, quite frankly, because it's more about the offer,
Yeah.
anything. There are like table stakes for design and stuff nowadays. People are getting good. And so, if you look, we're on with the Canva one, that's helpful. The Canva workshop you guys did the other day, that's like a good example of, bring your standards up to a certain point. But back to the basics, a landing page where you get an opt-in, and then a newsletter where you're really specific, right? We send the newsletter at this time once a week or once every other week. I wouldn't do less than that. And then write at a minimum 3 emails that automatically go out after they get the thing they opted in for.
Mhm.
So if they put their email in, they get the thing. If they just sign up for the newsletter, then they go straight to this. And then the day after they get the thing or the day they opt into the newsletter, you're going to write basically an introduction sequence where you're going to tell them what you're about through story, right? Like I'm a big fan of story. You guys do story, and you want to use that human connection of story to really get people to get to know you and get to understand what you're doing there. And so that's like the first thing. And then in each of those, this is where you can play a little bit, but at the last email, the third one at the minimum, make sure you include a link to a booking page so they can book a call with you if that's exciting to them, what they learn. So this is like absolute minimums, right? I would say.
Absolutely.
Make sure that you use a tool like a Calendly. That's a popular one, so I'll just say it. To automate the ability to book in your schedule. So I think that's really important because that can be used both in the automation of emails that you're sending, and it can be used to just automate the fact that someone booked in your calendar. You connect Zoom to Calendly, and it automatically just spits out a Zoom link, right? You don't even need Zapier at that point. And now when people book a call with you, they get their link consistently. They get their reminders to show up.
Mhm.
That's automation. That's effective automation. And now you're having your call. And then after your call, this is a little bit more process, less automation. You should always send someone a follow-up email from the call.
Yeah.
And I think that's the basics, like right there. That's the basics. You can run a business off that.
So email blast automation, where basically, even if you are writing regular emails, there we go. Even if you are writing regular emails, they get a series of emails first
To warm them up and introduce them to what you're all about.
Rapport building, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that does more than just warm them up. It also, I guess, the outcome, just so that everyone's clear, the outcome of warming them up is to make it so that the open rate for those emails in the future are much higher. So the percentage of people opening them and the percentage of people actually reading them is much higher by taking them through that that initial process first.
Yeah, that's like the functional outcome, but really there's that, and the outcome too is to get them to get to know you, right? Like it's the first series of interactions we have with someone we don't know that we heard about. So I encourage people to think about it
No like and trust. Yeah, no like and trust.
exactly. Just like you build a relationship with someone in person, you're trying to do the same thing digitally. Email is a good tool to do it still.
Actually, I've found that, to be honest, like, I've found that that's where we're having a lot of success. And I highly encourage people to take what I call people, your audience, from that external ecosystem, which is the social media channels that we have, whether it be Facebook,
Mhm.
LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, and get them into your world, get them into your ecosystem, because you have much more control there. You aren't subject to any changes in policy or bannings or algorithms censoring you, or, you know, down dialing your outreach, your ability to connect with people. You do have that sense of being able to control, being able to have a higher connect rate with people through your own network, or your own, wherever your ecosystem lies. A lot of people, it lies on a CRM. Some people have membership portal pages that they have their community or their audience lie after they take them off of their social media channels. And I think that that's right now more important than anything, is to get people on your internal channels and continue to nurture them through those channels. And I think, to be honest, we've been having a huge lot of success on there. A place where previously Connect Coaching I didn't really value very highly, I don't think. And I've been surprised at how much success we're having in that space with the emails and connecting with people via email. And I'm fascinated by that. And I think those automation emails that you helped us set up has really made a huge difference with that and the strategy behind it.
I mean, the end of the day, I think that's the foundation, is the ability to communicate to someone as much as you'd like in the way that you'd like. And so you're trying to move them from the awareness stage that social media tools are great for and necessary, to grow, or not necessary, but they're a great way to grow audiences. And then you want to move them further into a more engaged relationship with you. And then email's a great way to do it, because you can communicate, quote unquote, for free to someone anytime you want, as much as you want. And that's a great thing, because email's kind of the reason the internet exists still. Like it's one of the big reasons we use computers and the internet is to check our email. And with everybody always on their email, what do people do? They get on and they check their email in the morning. And then that's the one thing they're refreshing. They may not be going into your, membership site and just checking what's happening there, but they're checking their email. They're seeing what's happening with their email, because work is still based around email for people. And with people's desire to get to, inbox zero, which my joke is the fastest way is just delete everything. And then if it's important, you'll get another one.
That explains it.
Secret tip. And also a joke, but the point being is that people want to check their email. They want to clear out their inbox. What's going on? What is it? And they still read their emails, and people read things, even if they're in the promotional tabs. They check email, they use it. So email is a great tool. That's the point.
I've had different guidelines around emails, newsletters.
Yeah.
One, I guess, rule of thumb that someone told me a few years back is one piece of information per email. Is that sort of still an industry standard, or is it just someone's gut instinct on that, or is there any rule of thumb around that?
Kind of like master the art, break the rules later, So it's like
in my experience, giving people more than one thing to do out of the emails, I feel like nothing gets done when they have one. Yeah,
so one clear message per email, as opposed to introducing multiple new topics. It's just one per email.
yes and no. That's why I say like master the art. It's a good rule of thumb still. But if you're a master of the written language, like, yeah, feel free to play with it, see what you can do, because there's plenty of email newsletters I get that I'll ultimately end up buying stuff off of that. There's multiple topics in that email and I read them all,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
or I read the ones that are interesting to me. So I think that as a rule of thumb, just talk about one thing per email. If you get really good, go try and break the rules and see if they work for you.
Yeah. It's more so if we have someone who's more, early on in their business journey.
Yeah.
And they'll build and construct their business based on rule of thumbs.
Right.
More just a little, okay, cool. So keep it simple.
Keep it simple. One thing for email. And another good rule of thumb for email is write an email, like get your Outlook or Gmail inbox up and actually write an email to someone and hit send on it, like a real one.
Mm-hmm.
And then use that as what you put as the basis of your email that you use for automation. Because you're always communicating to one person at a time via email.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's automated and you're sending whatever thousands, hundreds of thousands of emails, millions of emails, that email is landing in one person's inbox. And so the goal is to speak to one person. You all do a great job of that. I can vouch for that, with the emails you guys have.
That was great.
And what you said. Yeah, he is.
You're gonna
very great.
You're gonna
Stop.
And the thing is, like,
And you say that because, and I'm talking about it because of recency bias. But in the recent program I just did with Darren Hardy, he actually tells everybody to think of your best client, the client that has come in and you've had the best experience with them. They've turned into one of your biggest super fans. They've become an elite member with you. And think about them either now or when they first started or wherever they were. Wherever the email is on that person's journey, think about that person when you're writing it. And it comes back to that same idea that you just gave, which is that you're just speaking to one person, even if you are sending out 1,000 emails to 1,000 people, you're speaking to a person. And if you are speaking to them through the lens of your ideal client, then in my opinion, you're going to be attracting more of those same people. And they're the people that you want to work with. So yeah.
And I just go back to, if you're not sure what to write in your emails, write 3 emails to someone to try and explain what you do and in a interesting way that's fun to read. And then actually send them to someone that would be the right person and see how see if you get a response.
Yes.
There's all kinds of little nuance and extra stuff, but the main thing is write to one person, write about one thing. Those will generally keep you set and on a good track.
So with automation, we joked about it, or maybe not joked about it at the beginning of the podcast here, that it will take away jobs. It's really just doing this.
No, that's real.
I wouldn't want to sit here and send 5 emails to a new prospect who's coming to the CRM. That's a complete waste of my time. So it's really taking that load off your shoulders and streamlining how you live your day.
Yeah. And in the context, go ahead.
I was going to say, what do you mean? Like instead of sending those 5 emails, it means that you can be spending that time helping and serving and
building those relationships.
Yeah. Because if you have 1,000 people, right, just for this is obvious to everybody, but you got 1,000 people coming through, you got to keep up with 1,000 people where they're at, which email of the 5 they need. And, that's once you get over 5 people trying to do that, that's hard to do. Well, you're going to drop the ball. Some people are going to have a great experience. Some people are not going to have a great experience. And that's where automation not only saves you time, but because I don't think saving time is that important. I think that's overblown. In my opinion, everybody's like, automation saves you time. Who cares? I think automation makes for helping you make a great experience.
Yeah. It saves you time in sending emails, but you feel that time nurturing them in another way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is valuable in saving time, but I think that's a little bit of an overblown thing. I think the idea and value of it is really in making a consistent, incredible experience.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's where
a
it's
bit like,
awesome.
you know, like a slingshot. You got to pull back before it can, shoot forward. Um, if you have someone investing in automating whatever they want to automate, a process in their business, and they're finding that it's taking a long time in order to get it working, how would you encourage them to stick with it? Or would you encourage them to stick with it? Or what advice would you give?
Yeah, say that first bit of it again.
So the analogy is a slingshot. You pull back before
Yeah,
you go forward type of approach. If someone's new to automation, and maybe part of me, this is part of me is in this question.
sure.
It seems quite overwhelming, and there's a lot of moving parts, and you spend more time trying to put the automation together than enjoying it, the fruits of the automation, so to speak.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice on how to continue getting through that and putting it together without getting discouraged? And I guess maintaining focus on the bigger picture as to why you're doing that.
Yeah, so the way this shows up in this kind of business a lot of times that I've seen is I'm building it, I'm gonna automate it all, I'm gonna make all the pieces work before I tell anybody or let anybody into it or use it, right?
Mhm.
So, if you're doing it yourself and you're automating stuff, automate the bare minimum to make it work so that it delivers automatically, whatever the experience is or the email or if you're making a membership site, automate the bare minimum if you're doing it yourself, automate the bare minimum and then turn it on just so that you literally are taking care of the things that are quite hard to handle as a human and keep up with, right? That's your goal. So get those out of the way, make sure they work, turn it on. Don't add any special automations. Do the basic stuff and then put people in the experience and know that you may have to compensate by having good process for a bit where you are keeping up with the tasks around what needs to be done or supplementing the experience with a more human. Let's say you're doing a live workshop, right? Let's give it a real experience. Instead of doing a webinar, do live workshops, right? Setting up webinars, is it that hard? No, but is it harder than just going live on Zoom and actually being like, hey, we're going live at this point in time. Come join us. We're going to teach something. If you feel like it's overwhelming to figure out the webinar, don't do it. Go live on Zoom, fire it up and post the link raw in your Facebook and say, hey, come join me here. I'm going to teach this. Let people know at 2 weeks, a week ahead of time that you're going to be teaching something and give them the details on the time and then give them the link and let them join. Don't worry about automating anything. Just go do it. And then if it works, then invest in automating it. Right. So that's really the key is like, I say it this way, and it is a very specific way that I think about it is don't let technology get in the way of you doing business.
Yeah.
It's interesting because back to the question that Connor asked, and I'm just sort of kind of at the spearhead of implementing a lot of this automation, in our business, and that's why I think I'm starting to go forward a lot faster. But because there is a lot to it. It can be painstaking at times at the beginning, at least, especially while I'm getting my head around it and going through this fast learning curve. I see it coming back to the plumbing analogy. I see it kind of like when you're a plumber and you hire an apprentice and you teach them something for the first time. So, maybe you're teaching them how to install a toilet, for example, and you've done that a million times. So much of what you're doing is unconscious. And so much of the nuanced sort of subtle changes that you make to that process along the way can also be unconscious. So even as the person that's done that task 1,000 times, even if you're heavily involved in the creation of the automation, it can still, there are critical pieces that are still missed in the when you do turn it on, when you do turn the automation on and it starts to happen, there are still critical pieces that can be missed in that automation that don't produce the results that you want. So I see it as same thing as when you teach an apprentice to do something, you need to monitor their progress of learning as you go through, and not just expect that when you switch this on, all of your answers are going to be, all of your problems are going to be answered, and you're not going to have to worry about it ever again. There are tweaks, there are adjustments that you need to make, because there's different ways that humans interact with those automations as well. We all delete generalized information. Some of it's assumed, some of it's obvious. And as we get feedback, that's when we adjust and we fine tune that process until such time that an apprentice turns into a fully licensed plumber and can do it all on their own. And that, the friction and the problems that arise are all lined out. Would that be a fair analogy to make?
I think it's pretty fair. And I would just add that in this context of the coaching space, what I'll call it, where you're working one-on-one or one-on-many, or have some kind of digital delivery course, which is kind of the common, offers, that occur. I think the big key is to just use it enough that it helps you, but doesn't slow you down. Right. Like, and then to your point is you'll figure it out along the way, or you'll hire somebody, one or the other. And either way is great, but it just depends kind of on your, how much you like to be in the technology of things. And some people really like it, and that's fine. And that's great. And, the key is that you don't want to delay business activities, right? Business generating activities and delivery activities of whatever you're promising, because you're getting frustrated by technology. Like that's the biggest way I think it shows up, is like, oh, I almost have it working. It's like, screw it. Just put the Zoom link up and invite people, and if they show up, that is better than never launching the webinar that may or may not be what people are interested in. And in fact, when you're starting a new offer, I'm not necessarily even saying starting out, but just starting a new offer, you probably want to go live with that stuff out of the gate anyways, to see if it works, to see if people respond well to it. And I remember, I've got another little business that is a practice exam business that people pay for. And it's just fully automated. Yeah, it's sophisticated in the aspect of like, it's a random generated quiz and questions and blah, 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 and all that. But that's not the point. The point is, I can remember when I was building the promo email sequence for that, I waited for another 100 leads to come in, which happened about every 4 days. And then I would send emails out to those new 100 people for 6 days in a row. And I would see which ones opened, which ones converted, and which ones got the most. And then I did that about 5 different times. And then I picked the sequence and the different pieces of it that worked the best, put it together, and automated it. But at first, I literally can remember being like, what the heck should I write in this email? Write an email, send it out. Just go, okay, well, see how that does in the morning, And then after a couple iterations, I had a basis enough that I could then automate that, and then then over time I'd improve the automation. But that's like, I encourage actually not automating things until they're going to be functional, but using process.
Yeah. Are you one of those people that has like a mind map or a flow chart of all the moving parts, and that's how you sort of get in your head how to automate things?
Yeah. Well, I live in the mountains of Colorado, so I take a stick in the dirt. No,
The way you just, yeah.
yeah. No, I do. I use a mind map tool, and a good one that everybody can use is drive.draw.io. If you go to that URL, it's free, and it's pretty easy to use. And you can just start putting things in boxes and connecting them with arrows, the digital equivalent of what you've got on the paper behind you.
Yeah.
And the paper behind you also works great. A napkin works great. but draw out what should happen, because it forces you to think through the process and also identify gaps in your process, because you're gonna know the obvious ones. They're gonna be clear to you
Yeah.
as you draw it out. Like, oh, we don't do this, or we don't have a way to know when we're supposed to do this thing, right? That we said we'd do for the person to help them, for example. So those are the good things to draw out, and then do them manual or semi-automated, right? And then you can move once you're really consistent and things work really consistently every time, meaning they're like functional for the experience of the people you're working with. Then you can apply automation to it, and only then is my thought process around it.
Yeah. No, that's good. This is what we want. You're the automation
Yeah.
wizard.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in data, Sam, and really interested in even more so where, where I've started to see our automation really working well for us. And when I talk about data in this context with coaches, trainers, therapists, practitioners, it's things like, how many people opened this email? What were their names? Were they clicking on the links within the emails? And looking at that across a period of time to see if they've done that multiple times, because that gives me an idea of, in a way, who is following us along, who is interested, who is putting their hand up. What types of things can automation tell us? And I want you to sort of speak to more of the coaching and training industry if you can.
Okay. Yeah.
But what are some of the things that it can tell us? What are some of the things it can track? If we can just expand out to that layer of automation now, because we talked about the flow and process, it taking over those flows and processes to, I think of the currencies with automation, either make you more money, save you more time, or creating a better client experience, therefore leading to greater client satisfaction. What on the back end can we expect in terms of information and data that's actually going to help drive those metrics?
So here's a good one. This is a cool example of a tutoring company. You could say effectively in the coaching space in a way, out of Canada, and they offered private tutoring for children with their academics. And the way that they got new business is they ran a webinar. So they ran Facebook ads that then invited people to sign up for and watch on-demand webinar. They watched the webinar that was in depth about how they're coaching, how they're, why they're different, what they do, how it all works, blah, 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 and then invited them to sign up. And then there was an 11 email sequence that went out after the webinar. We found out that I think the number was right around like 83% average people that came through the webinar that were gonna buy, right? Not people who didn't ever buy. There's plenty of those, but people who were gonna buy, they bought after the first or second email. So all 11 other emails,
Absolutely.
kind of worthless. However, their program was one-on-one with the students. And that was $6,000 a semester. So it was expensive. Not everybody could afford it. And what they did is they would say, well, you got it. Basically, you take these 11 emails, you got 9 that are a waste, essentially. Your buyers have bought. People are just now window shopping.
Yeah.
We took the whole program, because they had a lot of online stuff that people watched and then work with a tutor, and retooled it just a little bit, put it in a membership site, and turned it into a DIY offer for $2,500 that you could take. So it was lower than their main core offer. And now they started selling on average 10 of those a week. That was nice. Kelsey was happy.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
so that's a good example of like, hey, you've got 9 emails that don't do anything, but you've got audience going through it. Okay, let's downsell them because they're still being opened. They're just not buying. right? They're being open at a high enough percentage rate that we can call it good. Let's say, I think it was like 30% open rates. And they're excited. They just came in. Can we use this to create more revenue for you? And without increasing the amount of time, so we took their core offer and turned it into a DIY offer that scaled. And that was all based on the fact that after the second email, your buyers have bought for the most part.
If they're going to buy a core offer for $6,000, they've already bought it by the second or third email. But then everyone's still opening up the emails. Let's offer them something else because they're obviously still interested. It's just the system is out of their
range
right now. Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
And as we saw, with an extra $25,000 per week automated to the business.
That was cool.
Yeah. Nice.
And exactly. And if some people get so hung up on having to sell their core offer through these, different funnels. I really think that the most important thing is that you've created a customer out of your audience, because otherwise you don't know has that intent, the intent to buy. You don't know who that is. And, coming back to, do they know you, like you, and trust you? Sometimes they could know you, but to find out if they like the way that you do something, if that way is different to how other people do something, then they actually need to experience a taste of what you're doing first. Trust you enough to opt into the core offer. So, I'm a big advocate for that type of strategy.
I just like that one because it's a very simple example. It was also a great webinar, and it also hit a pain point, the actual services, and they were good at what they did. So that was key. So they got referral business too, but like cold audiences coming through that webinar, like that was a great webinar with a good offer. And that's a lot of it too.
How long did it take? So looking back, it seems straightforward, but there would have been periods of should we do that? Should we not do that? Should we give that a go? So how long do you think, from when you started to put those 11 emails out, how long was it before you then realized, okay, if we make the offer a little bit lower, we're going to get more of a buying, and then you changed up that sequencing to attract those $2,500 buyers?
That one was pretty quick because we were going and building out some membership stuff there to begin with, and automating things. And then we were looking at, then we took a step back and looked at the funnel because it was already had been going at that point a little bit. So we weren't too focused on that. And then we just said, hey, let's go look at this, because we wanted to do actually something different with that automation. And I was like, well, hold on. And I jumped in there and was like, let me look at the stats on this. I'm just curious, And I was like, whoa, because we have the stats right there in the automation with the tools we're using, we were able to see, whoa, all your conversion points are at the second email or the first email. Like everything else is not. And then we did a double take. We're like, there's like no buyers after that second email. What's going on? Those emails suck, And then it was like, no, the emails don't suck, because they're really similar to the other ones. Your buyers have just bought. They're ready to solve their problem. That was the nature of that service too, is they were ready to solve that problem. Hey, my kid's having trouble. I need help. So either I'm excited, I'm going to go with you, right? Or I'm kind of moving on to my next idea. And so, or I'm out of the price range, right? And so that's when I was like, well, why don't we just take this? And that's just kind of the lens that I look at things through too. So that's part of it, is like, is there anywhere we can make some more revenue that doesn't cost you any more time? So that's kind of just, I don't know, not to call myself the master plumber, but it's like that's the master versus the apprentice looking at something, right? You go, oh, hey, might be some revenue here for you.
Yeah, nice.
Let's try it, and don't be afraid to try it. Stick it in. If it doesn't work, it's fine.
Yeah.
I love that, because you're always bringing new ideas for us on how we can do that.
Yeah, always.
Better serve our community, create more of a really smooth, easy client experience, and also help us to make more money, which is always a good one. I like.
Yeah, it's fun, and then you can serve people better with more money.
Yeah, you'd like to put your money where your mouth is as well, which is cool. And Yeah.
And it doesn't always work. Sometimes it's not, it's like, oh, that didn't work so great. Let's try a different one.
Yeah. So speaking of helping more businesses, where can people find you, Sam?
People can email me at sam@theautomationtribe.com, just spelled out normal, or they can go to the website and they can put their email in there. Or you can text me at 404-704-6761 and I'll answer your text message. If you'd like help.
In Australia or elsewhere around the world, you'll have to put a +1 in front of that.
You can WhatsApp me then.
Yeah. WhatsApp is very responsive on Facebook. I find that's.
I am. Yeah. Facebook Messenger is good for me for sure.
I tagged you in the post for this webinar here.
Okay,
so
cool.
Just click on that.
Yeah, you can message me. That's great. I get those. Try not to add me to your Slack
on
channel.
YouTube as well, which is always a good thing for everybody to see it on their followers on there. One thing I do really want to point out for everybody is that you have specialized and you've helped a lot of people in the coaching, training, and therapy space.
Yes.
When we work with vendors, when we work with contractors outside of our business, one of the criteria that Connor and I look for is that people have worked with similar businesses in this space, because we've had some terrible experiences in the past where people try to apply the same thinking from other businesses into the coaching and training space, therapy space. And to be honest, it's very, very different.
There's nuances. Yeah.
The nature of the business and what you're dealing with. So having you have that experience with, multi 7 and 8 figure businesses that you work with in this space, and helping us to get to a place where our automation is allowing us to really grow quickly, is very exciting. And I know that you'd be willing to help serve anybody else that's listening and wants to jump in. We'll also put your details in the description for YouTube as well, so you'll have your links in there. Sam, there's so much more we can talk about. I'd love to have you back. Actually, you know what I'd really love, Sam?
What's that?
Is if you could maybe do a webinar for our network, our community, and actually demonstrate some of this stuff, because it's still, even for me, it's still a little bit esoteric. It sounds good, but it's hard to quantify and make tangible. And I feel like for me, when you and I work together and you map things out for me and make it visual and you show me inside of different programs and softwares of how it actually works in real time, that's super valuable. Would you be interested in doing something like that?
Yeah, we can do that for sure. Just figure out whatever you guys want to do it. And, if you can't figure out how to do a webinar, right, we can just put a Zoom link up, like I said.
Yeah, cool. I'd love to do that. Maybe next month. Let me look at our calendar. We'll let everybody at work know about that, because I think people would really, really value that. We've been putting on some clinics lately with Alex, your friend Alex, in there.
Yep, he's great.
Advertising space. We also had Casey Grills come in and do some stuff on Canva. We want to keep delivering this type of stuff to our audience, to our network, to our private community, and connect to as well. So if you are interested in getting on the wait list for that and other webinars and workshops that we're putting together, and you're listening to this, please reach out to Connect Coaching on all channels. Connor Healy, Callum Hock on Facebook. We're super responsive there. You can also message us at Callum with a K at connectcoaching.com.au and Connor with a C at connectcoaching.com.au, and that's Connect with K as well. Thank you, Sam, for your time. You are
thank you.
Being keep going, changing the world. Automation wizard, Sam Ovett from Boulder, Colorado, in the United States. Thank you for being here, buddy.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sam. All right. And the broadcast.
Hey guys, Callum and Connor here from Connect Coaching. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Unplugged podcast. We're jumping in to let you know about something really exciting. If you are a practitioner, a coach, or a trainer in the alternative therapy modality space, the Forever Client Matrix is something that we've modeled in the last 30 combined years, both Connor and my experience. And we've turned it into a 2-day intensive, and we want to give you a preview of that Forever Client Matrix.
Absolutely.
We want to make the bar for them to enter into that program very, very low, and have them get incredible results.
I've sold about $40 million worth, and together we've sold about $100 million worth with our teams.
That's right. We believe that trust and reliability is the currency of the future. So if you want to turn every transaction into a transformational experience, if you want to turn every prospect into a forever client, then please click on the link below in the description and get instant access now to your preview of the Forever Client Matrix.
Enjoy.